So on Father's Day, your book that's coming out this week, you and your son Zach go on a road trip across America to visit some of the places where you've lived throughout his life. And one of the places that you go is Odessa and also Midland, right? To go visit Booby,
Yes.
where he lives now. And Booby and Zach kind of have an interesting rapport, right?
Well, they do have an interesting rapport, and there was just a article in Entertainment Weekly that sort of pointed out that in some ways Booby and Zach are almost similar in sort of my relationship to them. They're both my sons in a sense. Obviously, Zach is my real son. They're both children who have great qualities, and they're both children in need. They didn't really interact that much with each other. Part of that had to do with Booby's preoccupations at the time, and part of that had to do with, Zach's disabilities, and he really didn't know Booby
And for
very well.
listeners who don't know about Father's Day, tell us a little bit about your
Father's Day is a book about my son was born. He was a twin. He was born 3.5 months premature in 1983. He weighed 1 pound and 11 ounces, and he was in the hospital for 7.5 months and came home on oxygen. To his credit and his courage and his will to survive, he has lived. He's now 28. But he has severe disabilities in certain areas. He's verbal, and he walks, and he talks, and he has menial jobs, but his comprehension is very, very limited. He had trace brain damage. So the book is surrounded by a cross-country trip in terms of my trying to come to grips with who he is. We all have aspirations, for our children. I wanted my kids to go to Penn. I wanted them to follow in my footsteps. I wanted them to teach them certain things and sort of see them through me. I could never do that with Zach, and the trip was really the first time to really, really focus on him and what he could be and what he could not be, and also to focus, it was my own journey as a man, as a father, as someone with a lot of strengths, as someone with a lot of flaws, in the hopes of coming to grips with my son even more, because I've never really had a real conversation with him, and I never will.
And there's a section in the book when you go visit Booby that I thought was incredibly moving, but both for what it said about Booby and what it said about Zach and your understanding of the two of them. And you had just given Booby $500. He disappears with the money. His girlfriend at the time can't find him. And you tell Zach what happened. And Zach sort of asks you, how will he get money? Do you think his parents could give him money? Booby's not well taken care of. And you say to Zach, he just doesn't know what to do with his life, and he's not getting any younger. And Zach says, well, it's not like you're Booby's dad or anything. You're right, I'm not his dad. I'm your dad and Jerry's dad and Caleb's dad, and I have to remember that. How come you sort of would like to be his dad in some ways? This question is more than just astute. It shows an abstract thought process of trying to figure out my motivations for being a father to someone I am not related to. He doesn't understand, and he wants to understand.
Yeah, and I mean, what I learned on this journey is all the amazing things Zach can do, and what I learned on this, what is disability? I don't really know what it is anymore. Zach may be limited in comprehension, but he has intuition, he has grace, he is gentle, he is kind. And all during the trip, he was the one taking care of me. I can get very volatile. I kept getting lost and throwing the F-bomb, and he was very, Zach was very, very steady. But when he asked that question, it's an interesting question. He's trying to process, who is this guy, Booby? Why are you giving him money? But the wonder of Zach, too, is that he's totally honest. He's unfiltered. And he's asked at the end, Dad, I remember you took me to see your psychologist, Richard Hull. And I said, well, that's true. And he said, well, maybe Booby can go see Richard Hull. And I said, well, I don't think he does house calls to Odessa. And he said, well, maybe he can call him on the phone, which I actually thought was also pretty astute. But seeing Booby then was wrenching. I saw him recently in writing After Friday Night Lights. He's got a big heart. He's kind of a gentle giant, but you always wonder if he's just hanging by a thread, and when the next phone call will come, desperate or wanting money. He makes terrible choices in women. I just gave him, I am sharing the proceeds of the book with him. I just gave him $5,000. He said it was all right to deposit it in the bank account of his girlfriend, who just absconded with the money.
So Booby's done drugs. He sold drugs. He assaulted a guy with a broken beer bottle in a car. He has spent a lot of your money here, there, the 5,000 you mentioned. You talk about a air conditioning repair class that was a sham and maybe not his fault, but that was like, what, 10,000 down the drain. Do you think that having a special needs son makes you more forgiving with Booby?
I think it probably does. I mean, I think, I don't think that's the only reason I would have supported Booby. You're listing things where I should have done more due diligence. I do sometimes think that, in giving him money, am I simply enabling him not to have responsibility? But, when I saw what he went through in high school, you don't forget that. If you're human, you don't forget that. And I'm always, going to help him and try to direct him in the right direction. I will add one thing. I don't know how many here saw the movie, but Booby is, as I say, you could not make the movie without Booby Miles. And he got, for his rights, a total of $1,000. He got $100 up front and then $900 later. Now, this was a $51 million movie, and he got $1,000. Now, the director didn't care, the producers didn't care, no one cared, but I cared, so I supplemented it. But, that just seems to be his life. There was just a recent rap song that came out that did very well by Big Crit. You know what the name of it is? Booby Miles. He's never contacted, not even out of decency. Never contacted, just found out through someone, hey, there's a song named after you. And so he's become this, it's the worst kind of American celebrity. He gets absolutely nothing out of it, except I think it just haunts him more and more